with reading. So if I got on her nerves or, well, I was very bad. I was a very bad child. And I would have to read those books, and she's like a lover of Tolkien and just sweeping epic fantasies, and I had to read a book that she already read, so I couldn't just read the bad couple pages in the middle, you know what I'm saying? Because she would like, don't get one of those new books, get the old book, that one, and read it and explain to me, and it fostered in a love of reading and writing. And I think when she gave me, I was 15 when she gave me Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, and The Wheel of Time, and it just like changed my life. And I was like, I'm going to write. This is my mission in life, to write fantasy, and it's going to be horror, and it's going to be suspenseful. And I wrote my first bad novel at 16, and I bust into an author's book signing, and I was like, you have to read this.
Still better than shoving the manuscript under the door in the bathroom.
He was cool about it. Like, he stopped his whole book signing and took me to the little cafe and bought me tea, and like, he was like, this is horrible. He was like, you gotta write about what you know, write stories from your life, and when you become a better writer, you can attempt this again, but don't write this down. So 20 books later, at the encouragement of my writing partner, my fiance, we started writing horror and sci-fi and paranormal.
Did you write that one again?
No, it's still in the back of my mind though. Like, I didn't think it was that bad.
I pray that you run into that author. Yeah. He will be like, okay, you got it.
He's a real wicked, harsh person. He marked up my little book. I was in tears.
That's a shame. Okay, I don't write horror, but I enjoy horror. I'm a fairy tales person, and I like Grimm's over Perrault, so that's fairly horrifying. When I was in high school, I was a big Stephen King fan. I read a lot of that. I tend to go back to him sometimes, but now, even then I'm older, he tends to give me nightmares, so not doing that. There you go. I love following him on Twitter. He's the best guy on Twitter ever to follow. Stephen King!
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's hilarious. Him and his dog, the Thing of Evil, the dog, aka the Thing of Evil. You have to, Molly, aka the Thing of Evil. It's hilarious. But, so I did enjoy that. I enjoy horror. Like, I just finished. Did y'all watch The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix?
Yes.
So good. It was so good. Like, and I love the original too. Shirley Jackson is wonderful. So I enjoy horror on one level. I just don't like to write it. But I still enjoy fantasy and stuff.
I'm not a horror writer either, but when I was in third grade, it was Halloween, and for some reason our teacher played this audio story of a man who was living with his wife who always wore a red ribbon around her neck, and every day he asked her, can you please take off the ribbon? And she's like, no. And she would never give an explanation. So finally one evening in his sleep, when she was sleeping, he came over and he took off the red ribbon and her head rolled off. And imagine an 8-year-old listening to this story. I had nightmares for months. But at the same time,
it's a nerve
horror is something that, reading a horror story, it affects me in a way that no other genre of fiction affects me, that it just stays with me, these visual images, whatever. So one of these days I aspire to be like Stephen King, where you have these images that stay with you, and resonate and grow into other ideas, and create your own stories, whatever. But for now, I'm just doing fantasy and science fiction.
Yeah. For me, it was kind of a gradual process. I actually started off as wanting to be a science fiction writer, when I was a kid, and the paranormal and the supernatural and horror kind of grew on me over time as I read things like Stephen King and Edgar Allan Poe and another really great Dean Koontz, other great authors, and I started to just get into vampires specifically as characters after reading Anne Rice, and now it's just half the characters in my head are paranormal in some way or another, because I don't know, I just find they make great metaphors. They make, you know, they're people, but at the same time they get to be more than people, so they make great sort of symbolic things, and stories about them are just, to me, more interesting than regular people. So that's kind of my take on that.
I don't think I have the pain in my life. I've been fortunate in my life. I don't think I have the pain to have written horror yet. Something that sticks with me with Stephen King is that after he was in a car accident,
Yeah.
you know, that recuperative period, that's when I don't remember the story, but it was like an amazing story that he wrote.
Kingdom
afterwards.
Hospital.
He wrote Dreamcatcher.
Dreamcatcher in.
And did you see Kingdom Hospital? That was
Oh,
the
yeah.
guy who was in a car accident. That was like his story. It was great. It was a great miniseries.
But it's just amazing how he's able to channel that pain into just so much memorable fiction.
That actually leads perfectly into the next question I had, which is, who are your literary heroes and who inspires you? Which some of it was touched on a little bit, but if you have anybody that, like for me, it's people like Stephen King as well. But do you have anybody that you haven't mentioned yet, or authors that you particularly love?
One of my literary heroes is William Burroughs, and the reason he is because he's another person who wrote from pain, you know, that he was dealing with addiction, but at the same time, and he created Naked Lunch, which was about a man experiencing addiction, but at the time, it was so revolutionary that it was considered obscene, and he had to actually go to court and defend his literature in a court of law. And I mean, I would have folded, you know. It's like, well, you know, put it on the shelf, you know, you'll never hear from me again anywhere. But that resolve to be able to like say, this is my vision, you know, and how dare you call it obscene? And this is X, Y, and Z. Why I wrote this, you know. He was just like amazing to me.
Excuse me, I have a few. J.K. Rowling, because you know she was the reason I got started in writing anyway. And let me see who else. I'm just thinking of somebody. Oh, Tammy Pierce, who is a friend, and wonderful. I also of Stephen King. I love Tolkien. I just understand that I could not be that wordy because no one cares about the elf thing of 3,000 years ago. Well, every time I read, which one is it? Oh, Deathly Hallows, and I love all the Harry Potter books. But I'm like, we've reached this point where we're camping. I'm like, we have reached the Lord of the Rings portion of our story. Wander around from place to place in the woods with this thing around our neck that's trying to kill us. I don't know what else to call that. So I love all of them. I love James Owen, who is, if you have not read this Dragons series, is fantastic. I also love Lois Duncan, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. She and I became friends over the last few years of her life. And she sent me some signed books, and she was just such a wonderful person. And she wrote these novels that were so suspenseful. They were young adult, if you've ever read. She wrote I Know What You Did Last Summer and Stranger With My Face, and she's a huge catalog of books. And none of them are really horror, but they are horror. Like, they're just super suspenseful. And she was not started out as a writer. Like, if you read her whole life story about the murder of her daughter and all this other stuff, like, she was just such a strong, wonderful person. She's sort of a hero of mine, and I miss her. That's all I'm going to say.
Me, it'll be Nora Roberts. I always like I read trashy romance. Like that's like I'm so in love with my Kindle like that I don't have to explain these book covers to people.
There's a reason that romance sells so high in ebook.
Yeah. But Nora, she's just such a prolific writer, and all her stories are exactly the same. And it's the exact same story, and I'm like, and everybody's full, and I want to be like this, and I want to. How can I write like 100 stories and they be all the same, and everybody buys them? And Susan Brockman, like that was the first author that like I stalked Susan Brockman, and she responded like I'm a nice stalker, so she responds to me like on my Facebook question was I love Susan Brockman so effing much, and she responded I appreciate it, and for like 2 weeks that was the only thing I was talking about. Was it that she responded?
Right? You know, geek out when celebrities like your stuff on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
And Mark Hamill like a thing I tweeted. I was like, woo!
I got told
Like Captain
Stephen
America.
I collect them like little black head Mark Hamill or Carrie Elway. I like my little collection of things people that have liked my tweets.
I was told Stephen King liked my book.
Oh, you liked one of my tweets too about baseball.
And
That was my other
took
one. I
it
have
out
3
on
now.
Cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Speaking of authors, like the biggest thing was when I finally published this book and was listing on Twitter, these authors that I have looked up to for so long, and I listed this big long list, and one of them was Charlene Harris, who does the Southern Vampire novels and the spawned True Blood series, and she not just responded, but she had this lovely encouraging tweet back, and
She's
for
really nice.
weeks I was like, did you people see this? She just retweeted you and commented it. How wonderful! I lost my mind about that.
Now I feel my community.
Anne Rice has by far she's my number one, and Anne Rice I love on Facebook because she is so responsive to people, and she's so encouraging to new authors in every in every degree, wherever you are in the process. She's very, very responsive and very encouraging, and she will be the first one to say, yes, read your reviews because you do need to get thick skin, but then put them aside. Read them, take them in, and disregard them because your writing is your writing. You will find an audience. If your book will find someone who is going to read it and love it, and you will get there. But she's very encouraging. But so I love that about her. And Charlene Harris is very much like that, very responsive. But as far as actual writing, I'm one who loves flowery writing. So Anne Rice can talk about she can create mood like no one's business, and drop me right into the middle of turn of the century, and I'm there.
Yeah.
So I
She
love
does
her.
like her descriptions.
Yes, she
And
does.
finding
And
it
I
funny,
love that. I love that.
Because the thing, all these
It's
authors
funny
that are
that you mentioned
responsive.
Anne Rice, because I wasn't there, but my sister and my 77-year-old mother just went to a writers' conference in Louisville, Kentucky, and they were on the elevator with Christopher Rice, and they said that he could not have been a nicer person, And my sister actually talked me up for a minute, and I'm just like, why would you do that? And she showed him my blurb on Amazon, and he's just like, that is definitely a book I would read. So that was like hot praise.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but just the nicest, kindest person you ever.
They really are.
Yeah.
Very sweet.
As I'm laughing at the authors who take the time to respond, because I'm going, they're procrastinating. Because look at on Facebook. Oh, look, I can respond to this book. I'm writing.